Don in London, hello. It's September the 16th. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance was alcohol, and could be again, if I'm not careful. And my behaviour, equally addictive around people, places and things. So, a drink in hand, wanting to be with the right people, in the right place, with the right things and doing the right things. Indeed, a very good consumer of life. But I realise through the years of being sober that being a consumer is only a part of it. We give what we have in terms of sobriety, we give it away to keep it. So my whole philosophy of life has gone back to where I first started, I imagine, somewhere in my middle teens, which was to be a part of life, giving and receiving, and learning how to love, be loved and useful. But along the way, because of alcohol, I found out how I could fix my feelings. I could fix myself daily, take the edge off, feel better about the dark side of life, and be immensely happy about the light side of life. Now, wouldn't we all like it that way? Well, simply yes. What I found though, for me, as somebody who became addicted to substance and behaviour, to rely and fix on something or somebody in a way which means that I am completely dependent or addicted to various ways of living was completely unhelpful. Indeed, it left me in a place of isolation, living on a park bench, and not wanting anyone to find me, not wanting to be a part of life at all, wanting life to end. And along the way I had had moments of clarity which suggested it might be a good idea to give up drinking for a day or two. It might be a good idea to change my career yet again. It might be a good idea to find a new set of friends, people, places and things. So I could be me. I was always looking for the elusive who am I, not realising that sober I find out who I am and more about who I am on a daily basis, living life rather than enduring life. So what was the change in me? Well, family, friends, community, professionals kept me alive when I couldn't keep myself alive, and that's both emotionally and spiritually. Emotionally, I didn't know what my feelings were, except I didn't want to feel them, and spiritually, the ability to cope with now, I had no ability to cope with now. And then came along recovery. I don't know whether I pushed or jumped or whatever happened, but it seemed to me that life could get no worse, and that was my final moment of clarity, trying to do it on my own, using self-will and willpower. I could not beat my addiction or addictions. So what did I do? Well, I simply said to myself, I cannot do this on my own, and maybe if it can't get any worse, if I were to get help and just start from scratch, absolutely from scratch, not knowing anything anymore, not being the oracle, not being a good thinker or a deep thinker, just start again with a blank page and see what might happen. That's where I got to. And even then, I didn't stop drinking. Well, not stopped for a few months, influenced by the help and support of people I didn't value or trust. And then I found the fellowship of AA, a place where I can trust people to share what's going on for them. Doesn't mean I'm going to like everything I hear, doesn't mean I'm going to be able to imitate, indeed not imitate a thing, just live life sober one day at a time. So AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, as if by some intervention which was beyond me, became the solution to a lot of my problems today. Simply to be sober, to experience life as it is, not as I want it or wanted it to be, but to experience life, my feelings and reality, emotional and spiritual. Feelings fit the moment of now. Now for me that's quite simple, but it took me 35 years to understand that no amount of trying to be the person either you wanted me to be or I thought I ought to be, no amount of trying those ways seemed to work and leave me with an opportunity for some sort of serenity and peacefulness about my life. So no more drink for me, I hope. Anyway, it's just one day at a time. That's what I've learned in the fellowship. of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for the fellowship. I don't want to. Every single person in fellowship has their own life story, has their own experience, and their own way of living. So we all have our own way of living. We're unique, authentic humans on our own personal path of life, and they're all different. But we have this one glaring similarity. Alcohol and other addictions will get in the way of living life as best it can be lived, without trying to control or manage it. Life in the moment, living it as it happens, and as opportunity knocks, answer the door. That's the way it seems to work best for me. As long as I don't plan it into my perceived way the world ought to be, and then get disappointed, I'll be alright. Now, how on earth does AA help me? Well, I'm going to share the AA preamble, which is on this little card, and it will explain why I don't speak for AA, never can, never will, and why it's so important that people find themselves the true human that they are, learning life. So here's the AA preamble, followed by some readings from the fellowship literature and some of my thoughts on what's going on for me. So, the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. So that's it. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, and even that I didn't have when I first went. But there are no rules, laws or regulations governing your behaviour, your attitudes and your outlook. What you believe to be so is what you believe, and that's important. You need to keep your own identity. And that means also that there are no leaders, no rules, laws or regulations. We are simply trusted servants, living recovery the best way we know how, and that's today. So nobody's there in AA to tell you what to do, but people will have plenty and plenty of suggestions which may sound like truth, but it's all opinion and belief until it's true for you. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. So don't give money you don't have, and don't give exorbitant amounts either. We only keep a prudent reserve to keep things ticking along in fellowship, but it's from the members in fellowship and not from outside sources. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. So the fellowship is there for sobriety, that's it. But everybody goes to the fellowship with their own ideas, affiliations, all the trappings of a life lived. So we're full of prejudice of one sort or another. So you will hear all that stuff, and sometimes it may sound dogmatic, sometimes it may sound very religious. But no, we're all from different backgrounds, from agnostic to atheist to believer, or in whatever order you like, believer, agnostic, atheist. It's not a 1, 2, 3 or a 3, 2, 1. It's wherever you happen to be which is important to you, and that's how the program will work for you. So it's about your belief, understandings about life and how they develop through time being sober. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And if we didn't share our backgrounds and what was going on for us, we wouldn't be true to ourselves and to you, or to myself and to you. So I learn as I go these days. I'm not stuck dogmatic in any particular shape or form. Life, it changes as circumstances change. Real life keeps on happening, and what might be right yesterday may prove to be unhelpful or wrong today. So I know I'm full of opinions and beliefs, and that is not the absolute truth of how life is today. I'm looking for what works for me, not necessarily looking for what works for you, but there may be some similarities. So fellowship is all about the similarity of sobriety, even though we come from the broadest of backgrounds, from every part of society, in our own society and other society and cultures. So we need tolerance and love to be a part of our way forward. Or we sit in judgment, and the more we sit in judgment, the more we can be resentful for what other people are doing or have, rather than what we are doing and are having today. So the good news is you get your life back. The bad news is you can still screw it up, and that opportunity is there for me as well. So sometimes I do okay, sometimes I do marvellously, and often I can screw it up. And I was talking to a friend not so long ago about a person who was back in the fellowship after being out for some more research, and they said, this person keeps on telling lies. And I know they're lies, and I challenged him on it. And I said, well, why? He said, how were you 2 weeks back? Were you telling the truth of everything, or was it an exaggeration, or was it just hiding and covering up some of the things that went on? And he said to me, well, what about you? How often do you lie? And I said, probably every single day, to myself and to other people, but I prefer not to, so I'm working on the truth. And where do I get the truth? From listening to others and how truthful they are. Their integrity keeps me as truthful as I can be. But we humans are full of opinion and self-belief and opinions. That's just the way it is. And sometimes knocking out these things and leaving room for new truth, new understandings, can be very, very difficult. So the major prejudice for anyone coming to AA is being asked to give up their best friend, be it a substance or behaviour. The best friend, in my case, alcohol. The behaviour around people, places and things, trying to fit in, to be included, even though I knew it gave me no happiness whatsoever. I just thought if I fitted in I would feel better, but I never did. I just felt worse, hence the drinking. So I'm learning every single day how life can be, and I don't want to. No, I don't need to fit in a way which makes me bend myself out of shape. What I've found in fellowship is we can be whatever we want to be, we can say whatever we want to say, and it's most important we can, because where else is there a pressure valve to get the nuisance out of us and get back to some sort of open, honest and willing way to live? If it stays in us, we nurture the secret, and the secret can keep us stuck. That's what I know about alcohol and other things to do with life when it doesn't go our way. Anyway, AA Daily Reflections comes from this book, from AA, and 1 page a day. The programme is 12 steps for me as an individual to be open, honest and willing to live life. 12 steps which are living principles. They're timeless. So once I know them and they start to make sense by living them, then life turns around a bit, day by day. I read the books, understood the theory, but then I had to put it into practice. And the practice is entirely different from thinking it. So it's an emotional, spiritual, physical well-being program. Emotional, knowing what our feelings are right now. Spiritual, coping with what's going on right now. And physically, able to deal with life on life's terms. The good news is, physically we do get better for not drinking. The bad news is, life keeps on happening and you get other things wrong with you. So there is no escape from reality. In fact, we embrace reality if we're right-minded, I suppose. Yes, right-minded, we embrace reality, which we don't control. We can control our choices and reactions, or responses rather, but we don't control the world. We live in harmony, peacefully, or sometimes in turmoil and chaos, as life is. There's no guarantee of a way through the pain to the happiness. Happiness happens, pain happens. It just keeps on going like life does. And if we're here still and sober, we have a better opportunity to change course and direction as and when needed. And the other half of the readings in here cover the 12 traditions, which is about unity, service and recovery. And unity, service and recovery is simply how we help each other in fellowship. So no leaders, we're all trusted servants, and we share as we feel right. That doesn't mean we put on an act. Indeed, putting on an act is the one thing which will undermine everything. to express what is going on for us as truthfully as we can, so we can be informed by others' experience or ill-informed by other people's experience. So we find what works, and often a phrase is used, stick with the winners. One day one person is a winner, the next day they may be seen or perceived as a loser, depending on our outlook. But the good news is, listen for what works and is working, and need not do the things which don't work and don't do any good. So AA Daily Reflection for September the 16th. I have to keep on checking the dates these days. I think my brain's a bit shot. And there's the post. AA Daily Reflections, A New Life. Now this isn't the one which you'll find in most books, this is just the one which was in my book on this day. Yes, there is a substitute, and it is vastly more than that. It is a fellowship in Alcoholics Anonymous. Life will mean something at last, and it does. Life is better without alcohol. AA and the presence of a higher power keep me sober, and my higher power is learning the truth, how to love, be loved back, and wisdom, which comes from experience, strength and hope. So I have no problem with higher powers in my life. It can be the man who sweeps the street and I say good morning to and we have a conversation, or a man on a bus, or many people in fellowship. At least I can hear the truth of what their truth and what they're saying, and hear their wisdom and what it means to them. But for the grace of God, it does even better. It brings service into my life. Contact with the AA program teaches me a new and greater understanding of what Alcoholics Anonymous is and what it does. But most importantly, it helps to show me who I am, an alcoholic who needs constant experience of the Alcoholics Anonymous program, so that I may live a life given to me by my higher power. And I guess why it might have been altered in future editions is the constant experience of the Alcoholics Anonymous program, so that I may live a life given to me by a higher power. AA doesn't guarantee anything, it just guarantees an opportunity to be sober and see the truth. But what I know is constant contact with other people in recovery, in unity service and recovery, means I understand how people are keeping sober, what's working, what's not working, how the elements of living come together, and these 12 principles or life steps, they're not in any order once you start living life with them, but they're in an order to learn, so that one follows the other, and then we live life as it is, life on life's terms, not as we think it ought to be. There is no should, could or ought really. The world is the way it is, and how do we fit within it? How are we included, and what's good for us, and also what is good for everyone. It's not just me anymore. I have responsibilities beyond my own personal boundaries. I do. So my thoughts this morning: the gift of recovery. We live life real. In the past and present, tragedy fuels and grief prefers oblivion. And this is it. Whether it's past or present, tragedy and grief, they often, I would have preferred oblivion in the past, but today, now tragedy is lived, grief is a part of life. I don't want oblivion. Today I feel right, feelings fit the experience of now. Emotional and spiritual well-being promised and delivered. This is one of the promises for me, live reality. And just for today I feel happy, and indeed I do feel happy this morning. Indeed, I just feel happy. I'm a bit late and can't go to my morning meeting, which I would have preferred, but I got up late because I went to bed late. My head was going round with all sorts of thoughts, and that's just the way it is. But I can be flexible. I need to be flexible because there are so many things going on. And another phrase from the big book of AA: life will mean something at last. And I'm not trying to contradict that. For me, it's not the meaning of life, it is the ability to live life, not think it and then try and live what I think. So if I sit down and try and think an outcome, I'm trying to fit myself into my own idea of what the future holds. And to an extent that might be helpful in a general direction, but if I limit myself to my own view, I'm missing out on all the other things people can add in. Yeah. Living life, my feelings are growing, broadening and deepening with every experience that comes my way. Opportunity knocks and I answer the door with courage and faith, or fear and a brave face, as life is and I am. So sometimes if an opportunity comes my way, I might have courage and faith to go for it, or fear and a brave face to go for it as well. But if I feel fear and put on a brave face, I fail to inform others that this feels fearful and maybe I need a bit of support to go for it, that opportunity. And there is nothing wrong with that, because we were never designed to be perfect, nor the perfect candidate for anything. We have to learn it. So if somebody's asking you, have you got the ability to do X, Y and Z, and they need to judge your answer, if you say, well, this is my experience to date, and I can probably grow into what you're suggesting I need to be to do this, that or the other. But if you say, yes, I can do it, and put on a brave face, we'll get found out. Or, in my case, it's successful, then you find yourself doing something else you don't want to do. The one thing I want to do today is be sober, so I have the opportunity. But this is what it is. Sober, courage and faith help me deal with reality. And just enough fear today to say, I don't know all the answers, so maybe if we work together we'll get there. So fear doesn't go away in recovery, and we don't all become warriors and, I suppose, crusaders. Indeed, that would be the very last thing that would work for us. But it's easy to think we're all powerful when we're sober, and then think we have all the answers when we don't. Or am I just talking about me? Well, maybe I can see it in others, but I wouldn't go over and start digging up their stuff. I need to just deal with my stuff. Anyway, over the years from 2005, always tomorrow, always looking for the next best something to help me make sense of life. What a struggle for me or anyone. I share about the past because breaking with it can be the very devil. Sometimes we hear the phrase, the devil is in the detail, and we wonder what we may have missed. Was I missing out? Had I made the right decisions? Could it be different, and could I improve my situation and life? On and on, striving to be perfect, and never so, not only driving me bonkers, driving most of those around me with a restlessness that never seemed to go away. And of course we can have the fear of not being good enough. So we cover up and keep secret those things which are sticking. We learn some of these feelings of inadequacy early on in life, from home, school, the neighbourhood, sport, girlfriends, or if you're a girl, boyfriends, or whatever your orientation is, whatever it is. We cover up what we see as not desirable, rather than this is the whole package with a spot on my nose, or whatever it happens to be. Or more often than not, the rot is set from us. A moving target is more difficult to hit, running and not being found. And ambition driving us always to keep on going and making more efforts to fit in, or the opposite, not fit in at all. Rebels without causes and no purpose other than to find the cause. And I suddenly realised I was reading this from yesterday, so I've got my daily reflections all mixed up. The daily reflection I spoke from AA is correct, but I'm just going to get the relevant bit which I did over the years. How did that happen? I wasn't paying attention, so one pause and then back. No, it seems I was right. But I just think I've been saying these words before recently, and I'm trying to work out where. Probably in a meeting. Anyway, yes. On and on, striving to be perfect and never so. Not only driving me bonkers and insane, driving those around me with a restlessness that never seemed to go away. And of course we can have the fear of not being good enough, of feeling less than other people, so we strive even harder and put on a brave face. At least I did. Yeah. A moving target is more difficult to hit, and ambition driving us always to keep on going and making more efforts to fit in, or the opposite, not fit in at all, rebel without a cause, or no cause. And then following on from that, life, learning how to love, be loved and useful is something which has struck home in sobriety. The concept of what are we here for? What's it all about? Well, it simply is how to love, be loved and useful. And all the mechanisms of society and the world at the moment are not about that particularly, but that's what's behind it, how to love, be loved and useful. After all, without industrialisation, mechanisation, information technology, what would we have to do? Where would we have to work? On our relationships, probably more deeply. How to love, be loved and useful. How to? Of course, we need to learn what love is in the context of now. And love is the biggest emotion that we have, I guess, in our portfolio, except for hate, or the opposites, love and hate. We can love and hate. Sometimes we love people and hate their behaviour. Sometimes we may hate people and love their behaviour. How odd is that? We can love people and hate their behaviour, love the behaviour but hate the person, what they represent, what they do, what their outlook is. We have to learn what is good for us, and to love, be loved and useful is probably a very good starting point, knowing full well that on any given day we don't know how it's going to turn out, we don't know how we're going to be useful, we don't know how much we love people or we're getting love back. It's just as it is. How difficult is that? Only if I try and think it through and think, no, it can't be like that, I can love somebody and they'll love me back. It doesn't work like that. We work on who we are, how we are and why we are to an extent, but thinking about it, overthinking it to get a result will lead to calamity, because we're not necessarily taking into account life as it is today. It's not about our expectations or wishes. The promise is, if you work at life, something's going to happen. Self-help and self-improvement can be a very lonely existence for human beings geared to live and be interdependent. Yes, self-help and self-improvement can actually get in the way of interdependent living, because we think we have to do it all ourselves. Another of my musings has been that most self-help literature lacks context, offers a person more power over their destiny, and often unrealistic expectations. But that doesn't mean we need not strive. It's about, realistically, what are we aiming at over today, tomorrow, next week, next month, and how much can we influence it? So I guess there has to be a little bit of thinking ahead, but not trying to bend the world to our will. We have to do it interdependently, based on reality, or we need to do it based on reality, and work out what our interdependencies are. Not to have power over us, or have power over other people, but just how we work with equality. Anyway, the best self-help book for me has always been a blank one, and the first blank one I started was The Life Story, out of step 4 in the AA 12 steps. And from that it's now a reference book of what works and what didn't work, and I can keep adding to that with what are known as step 10s. Anyway, we're on the step 9 this month. Aspirations are good when they have foundations in reality and we have choices. Dreams are helpful, and if we ask ourselves what we need to do to make our way forwards, and we can see it is realistic, and then we have a plan and a first step. But life changes, so the plan is there and you go with the flow. You don't stick to a plan which is dumbfounding to the rest of the world. Sticking our heels in where there is no foundation in reality is not helpful at all. We never know what is round the corner, how the big picture may change radically and squash our dreams, or make a dream possible through sharing our outlook and desires. So if you want to be a Concorde aircraft pilot, it ain't going to happen, but 20 years ago it would. If you want to be, I suppose for me, if I wanted to start a career back in the day, like I did back in the day, what would I choose? Well, I didn't choose then, but I would choose now, and I don't know what it would be right now, because I haven't got a clue. A career sharing experience, strength and hope, maybe, giving it away to keep it. Now I can do that, and of course you can discard everything, which is the greatest the greatest part of it. You discard what doesn't work, is not appropriate to you. Look for the similarities which will work, and they come as daily opportunities as we hear messages from people sharing experience, strength and hope. So it's the many voices always, and not just one voice, which is going to do it for us, or inspire us to a new way of looking at the world. Today and every day we can share experience, strength and hope with each other to find out wisdom and learn wisdom. We are not driven to perfection. We are more likely to be living reality with every real possibility of happiness, an opportunity to make choices and be free in the ever-present, imperfectly perfect moment of now. We are imperfectly perfect. We are perfect because we're imperfect, that we've got room for growth and learning. But if we fill ourselves up with rubbishy things, then we can't expect anything out but rubbish. But sometimes we need rubbish to chew on long enough to make the change. Our living amend, and this is part of step 9, sober and in reality, no longer driven by self-will run riot, just simply enough self-will to make choices and be a part of the bigger picture. Acceptance of reality offers us a firm foundation to make plans, subject to change with agreeableness rather than resentfulness. We are always under construction today. Now I'm sure I've read this before recently, if not yesterday, but I'm hearing today, so it does no harm to share it again, because it means something different slightly every day in how I say it and how I perceive it. So nothing stays the same. Either we're walking along, running up hills and getting tired out, or running down hills to avoid trouble, and we trip over normally when we're running away from trouble. With our focus on what makes life work today, we are building firm foundations for spiritual, emotional and physical well-being. Sober, we are best equipped to experience hardship and happiness always. So some of the hardships in recovery, for me, type 1 diabetes, chronic tiredness, exhaustion, it just happens that way, and pain. But you know what, if I hadn't been sober I wouldn't have been able to deal with that, nor would I have been able to deal with clinical depression. And every time I do a questionnaire on clinical depression, it reads as, watch out for this person, they may be ready to kill themselves. Well, I don't know that it's true, because on any given day it can feel quite futile, life, or it can feel it's the way it is, and I'm still alive. So it's not endurance actually, it's acceptance. And in acceptance comes serenity, peacefulness, even though my life has been compromised by me for many decades. And then one or two things happen in recovery. I could say, well, nobody's on my side, God is not on my side, or a higher power has not made it so for me. What I know is the higher power has made it possible to live life as it is, and I'm older, sometimes wiser, sometimes foolish. I'm just learning life, but there are no guarantees. All I need not do is fix myself with a drink, or people, places and things in an unhelpful way to me or them. Sober works for me, and that gives opportunity for serenity. And the promise is life is real. It's as simple as that. And if it's real and we're part of it in reality, we can make the best choices available. And if we're not sure, ask for help. Interdependent these days, not self-reliant to the point of isolation, but certainly self-reliant to the point where I like my solitude as much as I love company. Now there's balance in there some way and somewhere. Happens in the moment most often. At the end of my videos I will share the serenity prayer, which is to God or in good conscience, depending on your belief system. So whether you're atheist, agnostic or believer, the power of wisdom is there to be tapped into always. So I learn with this meditation the can do, can't do, wisdom to know the difference of life. I can change me, my attitudes and behaviour and learn more. I can't change you, your attitudes and behaviour so that you're learning more. You are just where you are, and it's your choice. So can do, change me, attitudes and behaviour. Can't do, change the world, people, attitudes and behaviour. It's a growth thing. It's a human thing. So we're all living life, making mistakes, learning from them, having the humility to always say, if I don't know, I don't know. My life experience hasn't offered that opportunity yet. So when people that say, you ought to know this by now, person in your position, the answer is, I don't know, and I haven't had that life experience. And then the argument is over. You can learn from them if they offer it or not. Or go where people are learning all the time, inside and outside fellowship. The serenity prayer, as I share at the end, to God or in good conscience. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to learn the difference, simply, in the moment, in any given day, and often, always, just for today.